You have been told a comforting story about the universe, that it began in fire, that it expanded, that it cooled, that it settled, that everything somehow worked out. Matter appeared, energy flowed, stars ignited, galaxies assembled, life emerged, and through it all, the books stayed balanced. Nothing went missing. Nothing came from nowhere. The universe, we're told, keeps perfect accounts. But pause for a moment, because if you follow that story all the way back, past the stars, past the atoms, past even space and time themselves, you arrive at a question so unsettling that physics has spent a century circling it, without resolution. How did the universe afford to exist at all? Not poetically, not spiritually, but energetically. Right now, in the room where you're sitting, energy is everywhere. Heat vibrates in the air. Light spills from screens. Gravity presses you gently into your seat. Every breath you take is a chemical negotiation, energy shifting forms without ever disappearing. You have been taught, perhaps without even realizing it, to trust one rule above all others. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It is the most reliable principle we have ever discovered. It governs engines and stars, batteries and black holes. It has survived every experiment we've thrown at it. It is so dependable that the entire modern world is built on its quiet promise. Nothing comes for free. And yet, the universe exists. That alone should stop you. Because the universe is not a small thing borrowing energy from somewhere else. It is everything. There is no outside account, no neighboring vault, no cosmic lender. If the universe has energy, and it very clearly does, then where did it come from? You might instinctively reach for the Big Bang. Most people do. A hot, dense beginning, a burst of creation, a moment when everything started. But listen carefully. A beginning does not solve the problem. It sharpens it. Because an explosion, no matter how grand, does not explain where the energy of the explosion came from. If anything, it makes the question more urgent. A universe filled with blazoned radiation, expanding space, and swirling matter would require an enormous energetic budget. The hotter and denser the beginning, the more expensive it becomes. So how was it paid for? This is where the story usually becomes technical. Equations appear. Terms like inflation and quantum fluctuations are offered as reassurance. The conversation moves upward, away from intuition, away from discomfort. But stay here for a moment longer. Imagine your bank account. You check the balance. It says zero, not low, not nearly empty, exactly zero. Now imagine waking up one morning to find an entire city built inside that account. Skyscrapers, power grids, traffic, people, all of it humming with activity. And the balance still reads zero. You would not ask how impressive the city is. You would ask how this is possible. This is the position physics finds itself in. Because according to our best measurements, the total energy of the universe might be exactly zero. Not approximately. Not effectively. Zero. This sounds absurd at first. Look around. Stars burn. Galaxies rotate. Space expands. Energy is everywhere. How could the total be nothing? The answer, if it is an answer at all, lies in a strange cosmic accounting trick. One that feels less like physics and more like a loophole in reality. Positive energy exists. Matter has energy. Light has energy. Motion has energy. But gravity carries something different. Negative energy. Every massive object, by attracting others, lowers the total energy of the system. Gravity does not merely move things, it subtracts from the cosmic balance sheet. The more structure you build, stars, galaxies, clusters, the deeper gravity's negative contribution becomes. And here is the unsettling possibility. The positive energy of matter and radiation may be perfectly cancelled by the negative energy of gravity. A universe full of everything. A total of nothing. If this is true, then the universe did not need to borrow energy to exist. It did not break the rules. It exploited them. It balanced itself from the very beginning. But that raises a question even more disturbing than the one we started with. If a universe can exist with zero total energy, why wouldn't it? Think about that carefully. If the universe costs nothing, then existence is not a rare miracle. It is a natural outcome, a quantum possibility with no price tag attached. In that case, the mystery is no longer why something exists instead of nothing. The mystery is why nothing ever stood a chance. Now pause. Because this idea changes how you should think about beginnings. It suggests that the universe did not erupt into being like a dramatic event. It may have slipped into existence quietly, without resistance, like a ripple that costs nothing to form on a still surface. In the strange logic of quantum physics, fluctuations happen spontaneously. Tiny pairs of particles appear and vanish in empty space, borrowing energy briefly before returning it. Normally, these events are fleeting. They cancel themselves out. But if the total energy required is zero, then one fluctuation might not need to disappear. It could inflate, expand, stretch space itself, not because something pushed it, but because nothing stopped it. This is not a comfortable thought. It implies that the universe was not ignited by intention or force, but by permission, allowed to exist because the rules did not forbid it. Balanced so precisely that reality could emerge without ever tipping the scales. And yet, even this explanation feels incomplete. Because energy balance alone does not explain why the universe has the particular structure it does, why laws exist at all, why constants are tuned so delicately that stars can burn for billions of years without tearing themselves apart, why the same gravity that subtracts energy also sculpts galaxies into spirals of breathtaking order. A perfectly balanced universe could still be chaos. Ours is not. So perhaps the real question is not how the universe balanced its energy, but why balance itself seems written into reality at such a deep level. Why symmetry matters, why equations cancel, why excesses are forbidden, why the universe behaves less like a mess and more like a carefully constrained system, even in its earliest moments. You feel this balance instinctively in your own life. Too much pressure breaks things, too little and nothing happens. Stability lives in narrow ranges. Your body, your planet, your star, all survive because they hover between extremes. The universe does the same thing, but on a scale so vast it becomes invisible. And yet, here you are. A conscious system inside a balanced universe, made of borrowed energy that will eventually be returned. Your thoughts are electrical. Your warmth is thermal. Your very existence is a temporary arrangement of energy flows that will one day unwind. You are not separate from this accounting. You are part of it. Every moment you exist, the universe remains balanced. That is perhaps the most unsettling idea of all, because it suggests that reality is not driven by excess or accumulation, but by constraint. not by abundance, but by cancellation, not by creation in the way we imagine it, but by equilibrium so precise that something as vast as a cosmos can emerge without ever violating the silence of nothingness. We will return to the mathematics behind this. We will examine whether zero truly means zero, or whether this balance hides deeper asymmetries. We will confront the possibility that energy itself may not be conserved in the way we think when space is expanding. But before we do any of that, let this thought settle. The universe may exist because it costs nothing. And if that is true, then existence is not the exception. It is the default, which means the most profound mystery is no longer how the universe began, but why it feels so extraordinary to be here at all. Before you can understand how the universe balances its energy, you have to slow down and relearn what energy even is. Not the textbook definition, not the symbol in an equation, but the lived idea of it. Right now, energy feels ordinary to you. You flip a switch and light appears. You eat food and feel strength return. You walk, speak, think, remember. All of it happens so smoothly that energy fades into the background, like air. Present everywhere, noticed almost nowhere. But strip the universe down to its bones, and energy is the only thing that ever truly moves. Energy is not an object. It is a condition, a permission for change. When something happens, anything at all, it happens because energy flows from one form into another. Heat into motion, motion into sound, sound into vibration, vibration into heat again. Nothing escapes this cycle, not stars, not thoughts, not time itself. And the strangest part is this. Despite all this movement, despite all this apparent activity, energy obeys a rule so strict it borders on obsession. The total never changes. This rule did not emerge from philosophy. It was discovered reluctantly, piece by piece, through centuries of experiment. Machines failed unless it was respected. Calculations broke down when it was ignored. Over time, physicists realized they weren't just dealing with a useful guideline. They were staring at something fundamental. A universe where energy is conserved is a universe with memory. Every action carries the imprint of what came before it. Nothing vanishes without consequence. Nothing appears without a cost. Even when energy changes form, it keeps its identity, like a traveler changing clothes, but never leaving the journey. This is why energy conservation feels so deeply intuitive. It matches your experience of life. You get tired because effort costs something. You recover because rest restores something. Even emotionally, you understand this logic. Burnout, recharge, balance. So when physics tells you that energy has always been conserved, it doesn't feel surprising until you ask when always begins. Because conservation laws don't just describe how the universe behaves now, they appear to apply everywhere. Every galaxy, every epoch, every interaction we can observe. The same accounting rules operate at the edge of the observable universe as they do inside your body, which makes the beginning awkward. If the universe had a beginning, then energy conservation seems to demand an explanation for the first balance. If there was once nothing, then something appeared, and something, by definition, has energy. So where did the first ledger entry come from? To understand why this question is so hard, imagine time itself as part of the problem. Energy conservation is deeply tied to time. In physics, the reason energy is conserved is not accidental, it's mathematical. If the laws of physics don't change over time, then energy must be conserved. Time symmetry guarantees energetic stability. But at the beginning of the universe, time itself may not have existed in any meaningful sense. No ticking, no before, no after, just the raw emergence of space-time. And if time was not yet defined, then the very reason energy conservation works might not apply. The universe may have been born in a loophole, an interval where the rules were not yet fully enforced. That idea should unsettle you, because it suggests that the universe didn't just begin with energy. It began before energy had to make sense. Now let's ground this abstract discomfort in something familiar. Picture a perfectly flat desert stretching in all directions. No hills, no valleys, no motion. This is a universe at zero energy. Nothing happening, nowhere to go. Now imagine a tiny dip forms in the sand, barely noticeable. But once it exists, grains begin to slide into it. The dip deepens, motion appears, patterns form. Gravity works like that dip. In physics, gravity isn't just a force pulling things together. It reshapes the very landscape in which energy lives. When matter clumps, gravity doesn't merely rearrange energy, it subtracts from the total. It creates a deficit, a negative contribution. This is counterintuitive because we associate gravity with strength, with weight, with something added. But energetically, gravity is a kind of debt. The more mass you concentrate, the more negative energy the system accumulates. A star, for example, is not just a ball of burning gas. It is a delicate compromise. Nuclear reactions push outward, releasing positive energy. Gravity pulls inward, contributing negative energy. The star exists in the narrow region where these two nearly cancel. Too much fusion, and it explodes. Too much gravity, and it collapses. Balance is not optional. It is survival. Scale that logic up, and you begin to see the universe itself as a star-like object, except unimaginably larger. Matter and radiation supply positive energy. Gravity supplies negative energy. Expansion stretches space, diluting energy density. Curvature stores gravitational cost. The question is not whether the universe contains energy. It clearly does. The question is whether the sum total is anything at all. Here is where the cosmic setup becomes truly strange. When physicists attempt to calculate the total energy of the universe, they don't get a clear answer. In fact, depending on how the calculation is done, the answer can be zero, infinite, or undefined. This isn't sloppiness. It's a sign that our intuitions, built for rooms and rivers and fires, are being pushed far beyond their design limits. Energy, as you know it, behaves well in a fixed space. But space itself is expanding, stretching, creating new distances between things. And when space expands, the bookkeeping changes. Light, for example, loses energy as the universe expands. Its wavelength stretches. The photons cool. But where does that energy go? It doesn't heat anything. It doesn't transfer. It doesn't reappear. It simply fades. This should bother you, because it sounds like energy is being destroyed. But physicists will tell you that energy conservation still holds, just not in the way you expect. In an expanding universe, global energy conservation becomes ambiguous. The rules that work locally, here, now, may not apply universally. This is the first crack in the foundation. Energy is conserved in your lab, in your star, in your galaxy. But for the universe as a whole, the rule becomes negotiable. And yet, Despite this ambiguity, the universe behaves as if it is exquisitely balanced. Expansion doesn't run away instantly. Gravity doesn't crush everything back into nothing. Instead, the cosmos coasts, slowly, deliberately, as if it were tuned to hover between extremes. This tuning is what gives rise to everything you see. If gravity were slightly stronger, the universe would have collapsed before stars could form. If it were weaker, matter would never have clumped at all. If expansion had been a little faster, galaxies would never assemble. A little slower, and the universe would recollapse early. These are not dramatic margins. They are razor-thin, which raises a quiet but unavoidable question. Is this balance accidental? Or is balance itself the rule from which everything else flows? Think about the way your own life maintains equilibrium. Your body regulates temperature, chemistry, pressure. Drift too far from balance and systems fail. The universe seems to operate on the same principle, but written into the fabric of reality itself. And this is where the emotional weight begins to build. Because if the universe is balanced at its deepest level, then instability, violence, collapse, death are not signs of chaos. They are corrections, movements back toward equilibrium. Stars burn out, galaxies collide, even black holes evaporate, slowly returning energy to space. Nothing is allowed to keep energy locked away forever. Eventually, balances are restored. You are not exempt from this process. Every calorie you consume will be released. Every bit of energy that animates your thoughts will dissipate. You are a temporary deviation from equilibrium, a beautifully organized fluctuation in an otherwise balanced universe. Does that make existence feel fragile or meaningful? Now consider this. If balance is fundamental, then the universe did not need to aim for complexity. Complexity may simply be what balance looks like when energy has many ways to flow. Rivers don't plan to form deltas. They do so because water seeks equilibrium. Stars don't intend to shine. They do so because pressure demands release. Life doesn't choose to emerge. It does so because energy gradients invite structure. You are the universe balancing itself, locally, for a moment. And this brings us back to the main mystery, not yet answered, but now properly framed. If the universe is balanced now, and if balance governs everything we observe, then what about the very beginning? Did the universe begin balanced? Or did it begin unbalanced and somehow correct itself? And if it began balanced, how? How does a universe emerge already obeying rules that require time, symmetry, and structure before time itself existed? You don't need equations to feel the tension here. You can sense it the way you sense a story, building toward a revelation. Something about the universe feels too composed to be an accident, yet too constrained to be designed in the way we imagine design. It sits in a narrow corridor between impossibility and inevitability. And as we move forward, you'll see that every attempt to explain this balance, whether through inflation, quantum gravity, or exotic forms of energy, only deepens the question. Because the more we understand about how the universe works, the harder it becomes to explain why it works at all. And somewhere in that tension, between certainty and mystery, you begin to feel it. The universe is not just expanding outward, it is holding itself together. Imagine holding a map of your life in your hands. Not a map of places, but of moments. Every choice you made, every road you didn't take, Every version of yourself that almost existed but didn't. The map is impossibly dense, folded in on itself, lines crossing lines, branching endlessly. You trace one path with your finger, and it feels solid, certain. This is how things happened. But then you notice something unsettling. Some lines loop back. Some paths intersect themselves. Some roads don't lead forward at all, but sideways. Now imagine that map is not your life. It is time itself. This is where the heart of the mystery begins, not with energy alone, but with time's refusal to behave the way you were promised it would. We grow up believing time is a straight line, past behind you, future ahead, cause first, effect second. Energy flows along that arrow, obeying rules, staying balanced as it moves forward. But when physicists push their equations deep enough, toward the edges of black holes, toward the first moments of the universe, toward the smallest scales imaginable, that line begins to bend. And sometimes it closes. Time loops are not science fiction inventions. They fall out of Einstein's equations naturally, like shadows you didn't intend to cast. Certain solutions to general relativity describe universes where time curves back on itself, where moving forward long enough returns you to where you started, not just in space, but in time. In such a universe, the question of energy balance becomes deeply strange. If an event causes itself, where does the energy come from? If a system loops forever, does it require an initial input at all? Imagine lighting a candle that somehow ignites its own wick in the past. No first spark, no external source, just a closed circuit of cause and effect, endlessly self-sustaining. This idea is called a closed time-like curve, but don't let the name distance you from it. At its core, it challenges the most basic assumption you carry, that beginnings are necessary. In a time loop, there is no beginning. There is no end. The universe doesn't start. It exists as a whole, self-consistent structure. Energy doesn't need to be created. It simply is, distributed across the loop. That possibility alone should make you uneasy, because it suggests that asking, "Where did the energy come from?" might be like asking where the circumference of a circle begins. Now pause. Let that sit in your mind. If the universe at its deepest level does not privilege beginnings, then balance doesn't have to be achieved. It can be built in. Energy doesn't need to be injected at the start. It can be arranged globally, across time, in a way that always adds up. But time loops are only one fracture in the familiar story. Another opens when you consider the multiverse. You don't need to imagine infinite bubble universes yet. Start smaller. Start with a simple idea, that the universe you see is not the only possible one, that the laws you experience are not the only laws that could exist. Physics itself whispers this possibility every time it presents multiple solutions and then quietly selects one. In some theories, our universe is just one region in a much larger structure, like a single valley in an endless mountain range of possibilities. Energy may not be balanced locally, but globally, across all universes, the books still close. Think of it like this. Imagine a casino where every game is perfectly fair in aggregate, but wildly unfair at individual tables. Some players walk away rich, others lose everything. Zoom out far enough, and the house balance is exact. Nothing is gained or lost overall. In a multiverse, energy imbalances in one universe could be offset by opposite imbalances elsewhere. Creation here, annihilation there, Expansion here, collapse elsewhere. The total remains fixed, even if no single universe feels balanced from the inside. This reframes the question entirely. Instead of asking how our universe balanced its energy, you begin to ask whether energy balance applies only at a higher level, one you cannot observe directly. A cosmic bookkeeping system that operates across realities you will never see. And this is where the emotional tension deepens. Because from your perspective, inside one universe, everything feels precarious. Expansion accelerates, dark energy dominates, galaxies drift apart. The future looks cold and empty. Balance feels temporary, fragile. But from a larger perspective, if such a perspective exists, this may be exactly how balance manifests. Through contrast, through diversity, through entire universes exploring different energetic arrangements. Now consider something even stranger. There are hints, faint, controversial, unsettling, that our universe may not even be moving randomly through space. Measurements of galaxy clusters suggest a large-scale motion called dark flow, a drift toward something beyond the observable horizon. Toward what? No one knows. But if real, dark flow implies that our universe might be responding to gravitational influences outside what we can see, as if something massive lies beyond the edge of our cosmic map, tugging at everything inside. If that's true, then our universe is not a closed system. And if it is not closed, then energy balance might not be internal at all. Energy could be exchanged across boundaries we don't understand. What looks like a mystery inside the universe might be a bookkeeping artifact of our limited viewpoint. This is the recurring theme now, isn't it? Every time you think you've cornered the problem of balance, it slips sideways. Time bends, universes multiply, boundaries dissolve. The rules remain intact, but only when applied in ways that feel increasingly alien. Now imagine holding that map of your life again. But this time, instead of one path, you see many. Branching at every decision. Versions of you that chose differently. Some happier, some not. Some never born. Some ending early. All equally real in some vast possibility space. This is not just philosophy. In quantum mechanics, systems don't choose outcomes until they are measured. Until then, they exist in superpositions, multiple states at once. Some interpretations take this literally. Every possibility becomes real in a branching multiverse. If that's true, then energy doesn't just flow through time, it splits. Every decision point redistributes energy across branches. Conservation may hold globally, across all branches, even if any single branch feels incomplete. You live in one branch, one path, one story, but the balance might belong to the whole. Now let's turn inward, because the most disturbing paradox is not cosmic. It's personal. Your own consciousness appears to violate balance intuitively. Thoughts appear without effort. Ideas arrive uninvited. Memories surface from nowhere. From the inside, it feels like creation, new content emerging spontaneously. But from the outside, it's all energy flow. Neurons firing, gradients equalizing, chemistry unfolding according to rules you didn't write. You experience novelty. The universe experiences accounting. This duality, experience versus explanation, is mirrored everywhere in cosmology. From inside the universe, everything feels dynamic, fragile, dramatic. From the equations, it looks static, symmetrical, balanced. Which one is more real? Imagine reading a novel. From inside the story, characters struggle. From outside, the entire plot exists at once. Beginning, middle, end, all fixed. No energy is created as the story unfolds. It is simply revealed. Some physicists quietly wonder if the universe is more like the book than the characters suspect. A block universe, they call it. Past, present, and future equally real. Time not flowing, but laid out. Energy not moving, but distributed across space-time as a whole. Balance not achieved through evolution, but present eternally. In such a universe, the question, how did balance emerge, becomes meaningless. Balance never emerged. It simply is. And yet, you feel time pass. You feel change. You feel effort. You feel cost. This is the deepest paradox so far. The universe may be balanced in total, but lived experience is not. From your point of view, things matter. Energy is spent. Choices have weight. Consequences follow causes. How can both be true? Imagine standing inside a vast, frozen waterfall. Every droplet suspended in midair. From outside, the structure is static. From inside, if you were one of the droplets, motion would feel real. Direction would feel meaningful. Perhaps energy balance is a property of the frozen whole, while motion belongs to the perspective trapped inside it. Now think about the early universe again. If time, energy, and structure are all interwoven, then the beginning might not be a starting point at all, but a boundary condition. A place where our usual language breaks. A region where balance is defined globally, not locally. Inflation, the rapid expansion that may have occurred just after the universe's birth, fits this pattern disturbingly well. It allows space to balloon outward while keeping the total energy near zero. Positive energy from matter fields balanced by negative gravitational energy. A universe that grows larger without becoming more expensive. Like a loan that grows without accruing interest. But inflation also spawns multiverses. Regions where expansion stops become universes like ours. Regions where it doesn't continue inflating forever. Balance preserved overall, variety exploding locally. Every solution breeds more questions. Time loops remove beginnings. Multiverses outsource balance. Block universes freeze it entirely. Dark flow hints at external influence. Each theory keeps energy conservation alive, but only by stretching your intuition to its breaking point. And notice the pattern. None of these ideas give you closure. They offer frameworks, not answers. They trade one mystery for another. Deeper one. They preserve balance at the cost of simplicity, which may be the most honest outcome possible. Because perhaps the universe is not meant to be resolved like a puzzle with a final piece. Perhaps it is meant to be inhabited, experienced, questioned endlessly from the inside. You are part of the system trying to understand itself. Your curiosity is powered by the same energy whose balance you're questioning. Your confusion is a local fluctuation in a globally ordered structure. And here is the reflective thought to leave you with before moving forward. If the universe truly balances its energy across time loops, multiverses, and unseen dimensions, then meaning may not come from answers. It may come from position, from where you are inside the balance. You are here, now, aware, and that alone may be the rarest configuration of energy the universe ever achieves. Imagine standing in a vast room filled with doors. Each door is labeled with a different explanation for how the universe balances its energy. None are locked. None are marked correct. Some are old and worn, others newly built, their paint still drying. You open one door, walk through, and the room behind it makes sense. Briefly. Then you notice cracks in the walls, paradoxes in the corners, questions humming quietly in the background. So you step back, segment by segment. This is how modern physics lives with the problem. Not by choosing a single door, but by holding many open at once, knowing that none offer full resolution. Let's begin with the most conservative idea, the one that tries hardest to preserve your intuition. The universe, it says, balances its energy locally, not globally. In this view, asking for the total energy of the universe is like asking for the total height of all waves in the ocean. The question sounds reasonable, but it assumes the ocean is static, bounded, and well-defined. Our universe is not. Space itself expands. Distances stretch. Reference frames shift. Energy conservation, under this interpretation, is a local law. It applies where time behaves normally, where space-time is approximately flat, where cause and effect can be cleanly separated, in laboratories, in stars, in galaxies. But on the largest scales, the rule dissolves. This is deeply unsatisfying, emotionally and philosophically. It feels like retreat, like saying, the universe balances energy, except when it doesn't. And yet, this view has power. It allows light to lose energy as space expands without requiring a destination for that energy. It allows dark energy to dominate without violating known laws. It avoids exotic assumptions about time loops or other universes. The cost is existential discomfort, because if global balance does not exist, then the universe may truly have created energy from nothing, not as a loophole, not as a clever cancellation, but as a brute fact. For some physicists, this is acceptable. For others, it feels like betrayal. So they open another door. This one leads to quantum gravity, a realm where space, time, and energy are not continuous, but granular, pixelated, quantized. In this picture, energy conservation may not be exact at the smallest scales. Tiny violations could occur, flickering in and out of existence, averaging out over time. What looks like strict balance from far away might be statistical rather than absolute. Imagine a tightrope walker viewed from a distance. Perfect balance. Now zoom in. Muscles tremble. Adjustments overshoot. Corrections follow. Balance emerges not from stillness, but from constant micro-failures. The universe might work the same way. Energy could fluctuate briefly, locally, violating conservation in tiny bursts, especially near the beginning of time or near singularities. Over cosmic scales, these fluctuations cancel. Balance appears exact, but only because you're not close enough to see the jitter. This idea preserves elegance while accepting imperfection. But it introduces a new unease. If energy conservation is only approximate, then the universe is not held together by inviolable law, but by statistical habit. Order is not guaranteed. It is merely likely. Now consider a more radical door. What if energy itself is not fundamental? What if it is a derived concept, a bookkeeping tool that only exists because we observe the universe in a particular way? In some approaches to physics, energy emerges from symmetry, specifically from the symmetry of time. If the laws of physics are the same today as yesterday, then energy is conserved. If that symmetry breaks, so does conservation. This flips the story. Energy is not something the universe must account for. It is something that appears when time behaves nicely. And if time emerged, rather than always existing, then energy conservation could have emerged with it. The early universe may not have been required to balance anything because the concept of balance had not yet crystallized. This is unsettling because it means we are projecting modern rules backward into a regime where they may not apply. It's like demanding traffic laws from a time before roads existed. In this view, the universe did not violate conservation at the beginning. Conservation simply wasn't there yet. Once space-time stabilized, once laws settled into their present form, energy became conserved. From that point onward, the universe has kept perfect accounts. Before that, the ledger didn't exist. Now pause. Does this explanation comfort you, or does it make reality feel more fragile? Because it suggests that the deepest rules you rely on are contingent. They could have been otherwise. They might even change again. Now open another door. Inside is the idea that the universe is a self-consistent structure, one that cannot exist in an energetically unbalanced state. In this view, asking how balance was achieved is like asking how a triangle managed to have three sides. The universe we observe is not one possibility among many. It is the only configuration that can exist coherently. All unbalanced universes simply do not happen. They are forbidden not by force, but by inconsistency. This idea borrows from both mathematics and philosophy. Certain equations have solutions, others do not. Certain stories can be told without contradiction. Others collapse under their own logic. Perhaps an unbalanced universe is like a story where cause follows effect, but never precedes it. It cannot be read. It cannot be lived. So it never exists. Under this interpretation, balance is not an outcome. It is a precondition. Reality filters itself. Only stable, self-consistent configurations survive long enough to be observed. You are not living in a balanced universe because balance was achieved. You are living in a balanced universe because only such universes can contain observers. This is dangerously close to anthropic reasoning. The idea that the universe must be compatible with your existence simply because you are here to notice it. Some physicists recoil from this. It feels circular, unsatisfying, like giving up. Others accept it reluctantly, noting that nature does not owe us explanations that feel emotionally complete. Now consider one final layer, perhaps the most abstract of all. What if the universe does not balance its energy at all? What if balance is the wrong metaphor? Energy conservation is rooted in the idea of exchange, of flow, of before and after. But if the universe is fundamentally timeless, if past, present, and future coexist, then energy may not flow in the way you imagine. Instead of a river, think of a tapestry. All threads exist at once. No thread moves to another. Patterns appear only when you trace them sequentially. From this perspective, energy is not something that changes. It is something that is arranged. The total arrangement may not sum to zero or any other simple value. It may simply exist as a fixed structure, with internal consistency but no global accounting requirement. Balance, in this sense, is an illusion born of perspective. From inside the tapestry, you see motion. From outside, there is only form. This idea is both elegant and terrifying. Because it means the universe does not care about balance. Balance is something you infer because of how you experience time. Now, step back from all these doors. Notice something important. Each theory preserves something and sacrifices something else. Local conservation preserves intuition but sacrifices global meaning. Quantum fluctuation preserves elegance but sacrifices certainty. Emergent laws preserve flexibility but sacrifice permanence. Self-consistency preserves logic but sacrifices explanation. Timeless structure preserves coherence but sacrifices narrative. None win completely. And that may be the point. Because the universe is not required to resolve itself into a story that feels finished to you. You are drawn to closure, to beginnings and endings, to balanced books and final answers. But the cosmos may operate on a different aesthetic, one that values coherence over comfort. So here is the reflective idea to sit with. Perhaps the universe does not balance its energy in the way you balance a checkbook. Perhaps balance is not an action the universe performs, but a relationship you observe. From where you stand, inside time, inside one branch, inside one perspective, balance feels mysterious, fragile, miraculous. From another vantage, if such a vantage exists, it may feel inevitable. And the fact that both can be true at once may not be a failure of understanding. It may be the deepest truth the universe has offered so far. You are not meant to solve it. You are meant to notice it. And in noticing it, to recognize that your own existence, brief, energetic, aware, is part of the same unresolved equation. A question the universe asks itself again and again, without ever quite needing an answer. Right now, you are floating. Not metaphorically, not philosophically. Physically, you are carried by a planet spinning at more than 1,000 kilometers per hour, orbiting a star that is racing around a galaxy, which itself is drifting through an expanding universe whose destination no one knows. There is no anchor point, no center, no stillness to return to. You feel stationary only because everything that defines you is moving together. Pause there, because once you truly feel that motion, something inside you loosens. The ground beneath certainty begins to thin. The idea that the universe balances its energy no longer feels like an abstract puzzle. It feels personal, intimate, unsettling. If the universe is balanced, then so are you, temporarily. If the universe is unstable, then so are you, inevitably. Either way, there is no hiding from the implication. You are not standing on solid ground. You are suspended in a cosmic negotiation. Now, imagine zooming out, past the atmosphere, where air thins into nothing, past the moon, a silent companion locked in endless orbit, past the planets, each a different experiment in balance, storms that never end, surfaces frozen in time, worlds crushed by gravity or stripped bare by radiation. Beyond them, the sun shrinks to a dot. The galaxy unfurls into a spiral of light so vast it mocks the idea of distance. Hundreds of billions of stars, each burning energy into the dark, each destined to fade. And still, this is not the scale where the crisis truly begins. Zoom farther. Galaxies thin. Space stretches. The universe cools. Expansion accelerates. Darkness becomes dominant, not as an absence, but as a presence. Dark energy pushing space apart, quietly, relentlessly. At this scale, balance feels like a lie you tell yourself to sleep, because everything you see is running down. Stars exhaust their fuel, orbits decay, Structures unravel. Even black holes, the ultimate vaults of energy, are not eternal. They leak. They evaporate. Given enough time, they too return their contents to the void. Nothing holds, nothing keeps, nothing wins. This is where awe turns into fear. If the universe balances its energy, then why does it feel like everything is slipping away? And if it doesn't? What does that say about permanence, about meaning, about you? Now come back inward, to your body, to your breath, to the quiet electricity firing inside your brain right now. Your thoughts feel vivid, immediate, alive. But they are powered by gradients that will fade. Your memories are stored in structures that will dissolve. Your sense of self, so solid from the inside, is a temporary pattern held together by energy flows that cannot last. You were never meant to be permanent, and the universe was never meant to protect you from that truth. Here is the first internal cliffhanger, whether you realize it or not. If everything balances out in the end, does anything you do actually matter? This question lands harder than any equation ever could. Because balance, taken seriously, threatens meaning. If the universe returns to zero, energy spread thin, motion exhausted, structure erased, then every triumph, every love, every struggle dissolves into the same final state. Cold. Dark. Even. So why feel? Why choose? Why care? Now pause. Don't rush past this discomfort, because this is exactly where the human mind wants to look away, to retreat into distraction, to replace existential unease with noise. But stay here. The universe does not rush. Neither should you. Consider this. Balance does not mean sameness. A perfectly balanced scale can hold two very different objects. What matters is not what exists, but how it relates. Balance is about tension, not erasure. Your life is not meaningless because it ends. A song is not meaningless because it finishes. A moment does not lose its power because it passes. In fact, its passing is what gives it weight. But here comes the second cliffhanger, quieter, more dangerous. If meaning comes from imbalance, then are we fundamentally opposed to the universe itself? Think about it. Life thrives on gradients, hot and cold, full and empty, order and chaos. Without imbalance, nothing happens. No flow, no evolution, no awareness. And yet, the universe seems obsessed with smoothing those gradients out, equalizing temperatures, spreading energy thin, dissolving structure. It's as if life is swimming upstream against the deepest tendency of reality. Does that make existence heroic or doomed? You are a pocket of resistance in a system trending toward equilibrium, a temporary rebellion against cosmic silence. Every thought you think delays balance by a fraction of a second. Every action burns energy that would otherwise settle into stillness. You are not aligned with the universe's final state. You are aligned with its momentary defiance. Now imagine the far future. No stars, no planets, no chemistry complex enough to think. Just particles drifting in near-perfect uniformity. Space stretched so thin that interaction becomes nearly impossible. This is one vision of balance, completed. Not dramatic, not violent, just quiet. Ask yourself, honestly, does that future feel like completion? Or does it feel like loss? If balance is the ultimate goal, then awareness is an accident. A flicker, a mistake that briefly interrupts an otherwise tidy ending. That thought should disturb you, because it reframes consciousness not as the pinnacle of cosmic evolution, but as a side effect, an echo that will fade once balance reasserts itself. And yet, you are here now, aware, questioning, feeling the weight of this realization. Which brings us to the third and deepest cliffhanger. What if balance is not the universe's destination, but its constraint? What if the universe is not trying to end in equilibrium, but is prevented from doing anything else? What if balance is the boundary condition that allows complexity to arise without tearing reality apart? In that case, balance is not the enemy of meaning. It is the reason meaning can exist at all. Too much imbalance, and the universe collapses instantly. Too little, and nothing ever happens. You exist in the narrow corridor between those extremes, right now. This moment, this awareness, is not trivial. It is statistically rare beyond comprehension. Most of the universe is dark, empty, indifferent. Tiny islands of structure exist where balance is delayed just long enough for complexity to bloom. You are standing on one of those islands. That should fill you with awe and vulnerability. Because islands sink, they erode, they disappear beneath the tide. The universe does not promise to preserve what you love. It only promises that the accounting will eventually close. So where does that leave you? Floating between galaxies, powered by borrowed energy, aware of an ending you will never witness. Not comforted, not resolved, but awake. Perhaps that is the real raising of the stakes. Not whether the universe balances its energy, but whether you can live meaningfully inside a universe that doesn't promise permanence, purpose, or protection. That question has no equation, no theory, no final answer. And yet, you are already answering it, simply by being here, thinking, feeling, refusing to look away. We are not done. But from this point on, there is no safe distance left. Only the question of what it means to exist, inside a universe that owes you nothing, and somehow gave you everything anyway. What if the universe never solved the problem of balance at all? What if everything you've been circling, energy, time, beginnings, endings, has been framed the wrong way from the start? Stay with this carefully. You have been thinking of balance as something the universe does. A process, an achievement, a cosmic equation that eventually comes out even. But what if balance is not an outcome? What if balance is the evidence? Here is the possibility that reframes everything. What if the universe exists because it is balanced, not in spite of it? And what if imbalance is the only thing that ever truly happens? Imagine this. Picture a perfectly still lake at dawn. No ripples, no wind, a surface so smooth it reflects the sky exactly. From a distance, it looks empty, featureless, nothing happening. But now imagine a single disturbance. A stone touches the surface. Ripples spread outward. Circles intersect. Patterns emerge. Motion appears. Direction exists. Time suddenly has meaning. The lake itself did not change. Its total water did not increase. Nothing was added. Only structure appeared. What if the universe is that lake? What if the universe, at its deepest level, is not a dynamic thing unfolding in time, but a perfectly balanced totality? Zero energy, zero net change, complete symmetry. And what if everything you experience, time, motion, causality, history, is not the universe evolving, but the ripple? This is the twist. The universe may not be doing anything. It may simply be. And you are not watching it change. You are moving through a static structure. Let that settle. Because if this is true, then energy balance is not something achieved over billions of years. It is not something threatened by expansion, or saved by gravity, or outsourced to other universes. It is permanent, timeless, unbroken. The universe never balances its energy, because it was never unbalanced to begin with. So why does everything feel like motion? Why does energy seem to flow? Why does time feel real? Why does cause follow effect? Because you are not outside the lake. You are the ripple. Now imagine time again, not as a river flowing forward, but as a dimension like space. A vast, frozen landscape where every moment exists simultaneously. Past, present, future. Laid out, complete, unmoving. From the outside, nothing happens. From the inside, everything does. Your birth, your memories, your future, all already there. Not waiting, not approaching, simply positioned differently along a dimension you experience sequentially. Energy, in this picture, does not move. It is arranged like notes on a sheet of music. The song feels like it unfolds, but the score exists all at once. No energy is created when the melody begins. No energy is destroyed when it ends. The balance was always there. The drama is local. And here is where the reveal becomes deeply personal. If the universe is a static totality, perfectly balanced, then you are not a thing traveling through time. You are a path through it. Your consciousness is not watching the universe evolve. It is tracing a line through a fixed structure, like a finger moving across a map that already contains every road. This explains something you have felt but never named. Why the present feels vivid, why the past feels unreachable, why the future feels uncertain. Not because it isn't there, but because you haven't arrived at that location yet. And if this is true, then the universe does not need to remember energy. Nothing is lost because nothing is moving. Balance is not maintained. Balance is not restored. Balance is simply true. Now pause. Because this idea does something unsettling. It removes the safety net of progress. If the universe is already complete, then there is no final resolution coming. No moment where everything works out. No cosmic payoff at the end of time. There is only structure, and your experience of moving through it. Now comes the unresolved edge, the part that refuses to settle cleanly. If everything already exists, then why does it feel like choice matters? Why does it feel like you could have done otherwise? Here, the theories fracture again. Some say choice is an illusion, a subjective experience along a fixed path. Others argue that consciousness itself may be what selects the path, carving one line through many possible structures. And some suggest something even stranger. What if the universe is balanced because consciousness exists? What if awareness is not a byproduct of energy flow, but a constraint on it? Consider this carefully. The only place the universe is experienced is inside conscious systems. Without observers, energy has no meaning. Time has no direction. Balance has no relevance. So what if the universe's most fundamental symmetry is not physical, but experiential? What if balance exists because reality must be internally consistent from the perspective of awareness? In that case, consciousness is not riding the ripple. It is the condition that makes ripples meaningful. Now imagine the ultimate metaphor. You are standing inside a vast, frozen cathedral made of light. Every beam, every shadow, every echo exists at once. The structure is complete, perfectly balanced. Nothing will ever be added or removed. But you carry a candle. As you walk, The flame illuminates one section at a time. Columns emerge from darkness. Colors appear. Depth becomes real. The cathedral feels alive, not because it is changing, but because you are moving. The candle does not alter the building. It reveals it. You are the candle. The universe is the cathedral. And balance is the reason the structure can exist without collapsing under its own contradictions. This leaves us with the final, unresolved question. The one no theory fully answers. If the universe is already complete, why this path? Why this moment? Why this configuration of awareness? Here, now? Why are you standing exactly where you are in the structure? There is no equation for that. No model closes that loop. And maybe that's intentional, because the final twist is not about the universe. It's about perspective. The universe may be balanced, timeless, complete, but your experience of it is not. Your fear is real. Your wonder is real. Your choices feel real. And inside a perfectly balanced totality, those experiences may be the only place novelty ever appears. Not new energy, not new matter, but new meaning? Perhaps that is the deepest reconciliation of all. The universe does not create energy. It does not destroy it. It does not resolve itself in time. It allows experience. And experience is where imbalance lives, where tension matters, where questions hurt, where moments feel irreplaceable. So when you ask how the universe balances its energy, the answer may be this: it doesn't. It is balanced. And everything you've ever felt is what balance looks like. From the inside of the ripple, we have traveled a long distance together without ever leaving where you are. From equations to paradoxes, from energy ledgers to frozen time, from balance sheets of the cosmos to the quiet flicker of awareness inside your own mind. We began with a question that sounded technical. How does the universe balance its energy? And ended up somewhere far more intimate, somewhere uncomfortably close. Because along the way, the universe stopped feeling like an object you observe and started feeling like a condition you inhabit. At first, energy seemed like the hero of the story. Conserved, reliable, unbreakable. The rule that everything must obey. We trusted it because it made sense of the world you know, of work and rest, heat and motion, cause and effect. Then the ground shifted. Energy might cancel itself through gravity. It might average out across universes you'll never see. It might only exist because time behaves nicely, until it doesn't. And finally, the most unsettling possibility emerged. The universe may never have been unbalanced at all. The balance you are trying to explain may be the background state, not the mystery. The mystery may be you. You learned that beginnings are not as solid as they feel. That time might not flow the way your instincts insist. That the universe could be complete, static, timeless, and that everything you experience as motion might be a path through something already whole. And yet, none of this made your experience feel less real. If anything, it made it heavier. Because if the universe does not promise progress, if it does not guarantee meaning, if it does not even require your existence, then the fact that you are here thinking about it becomes astonishing. You are not watching the universe from the outside. You are not separate from the balance you questioned. You are one of its rare expressions, a temporary concentration of energy, awareness, and curiosity in a system that trends towards silence. That doesn't diminish you. It elevates the moment. Every thought you've had while listening to this, every pause, every moment of confusion, every spark of wonder, was a real event in the universe. Not added energy, not a violation of balance, but a configuration that had never existed before in quite this way. A ripple tracing its own path. And now, as this journey comes to a close, there is no neat resolution waiting for you. No final equation, no cosmic verdict. That, too, is honest, because the universe has never shown much interest in finishing its stories. Stars end, but questions don't. Theories refine, but mysteries remain. Every answer opens another horizon, and every horizon recedes as you approach it. The story you've just followed is unfinished by design. Not because we failed to complete it, but because completion might be the wrong goal. Think about what lingers with you now. Not the technical details, not the names of theories, but the feeling, the quiet vertigo. The sense that reality is both more stable and more fragile than you were taught. The universe may be balanced, but your experience of it is not neutral. It carries awe, it carries fear, it carries longing. And that tension, the pull between what is and what matters, may be the most important feature of all. Here is the final, haunting question to leave you with. If the universe is already complete, and you are simply moving through it, why does this moment feel so alive? Why does now feel different from every other point along the path? Why does awareness cluster here, asking questions that may never be answered, caring about balance in a cosmos that doesn't need to explain itself? Perhaps the universe doesn't require meaning. Perhaps meaning is what appears when the universe becomes aware of itself, briefly, locally, through minds like yours. And if that's true, then curiosity is not a side effect. It is the point, so don't rush to closure. Don't look away when the questions get uncomfortable. Sit with them. Let them echo. Let them reshape how you see the night sky, your own thoughts, the fragile miracle of existing at all. And if your mind is still spinning, if part of you feels smaller and another part feels strangely expanded, then stay curious, stay unsettled, stay awake. Share the question that lingered with you the longest, or the fear you didn't expect, or the idea you can't quite let go of. Because the edge of the universe may be unreachable, but your curiosity isn't.